fly so far, but I can't lose it.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
To be the best, one must beat the best. Ovals, road courses, the streets of iconic cities, race after race, the top sim racing IndyCar stars will battle it out. In sim racing, it doesn't get any better than this. This is their battleground, for the checkered flag, for the glory, for the right to say they are the best. The cars and stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, presented by Butt Kicker, are ready to race.
Lionheart's Iowa Race Week started off with a bang just days ago. The Speedway Series was marred by the leader crashing 3 different times, and massive pileups dictated the flow around the fastest short track on the planet. Tonight brings a different set of drivers and challenges, however. Who, in the Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by Butt Kicker, can conquer Iowa Speedway? We're about to find out. This is the Midwest Simulations Iowa 200, live on RaceSpotTV and ESTV. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's action from Iowa Speedway for what's expected to be a fast-paced race here on RaceSpotTV and ESTV for coverage of the Lionheart Racing Series powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com and don't forget to use the promo code LionHRT15 for 15% off orders. My name is Justin Prince. Alongside me the booth tonight is Renzo Bonder, along with our Junakeki Potty in the producer's seat. You can follow along with the live time and scoring thanks to our partners at ATBO to follow along with your favorite teams and drivers in the virtual world of motorsport. On that note, let's dive straight into our butt kicker pre-race show for what has been an intriguing campaign. But there is a lot of importance weighed amongst this race tonight. For those who do not know, currently, the points leader, Adam Blocker, is away due to real-life commitments when it comes to the real-world entity IndyCar Series schedule, the second of which comes into play tonight. And this could be a true opportunity, Lorenzo, for many drivers to try and gain valuable points on him for the closing stages.
Absolutely. I think this is the good opportunity for Connor Harrington to close on that gap that he has to get on to Adam Blocker and go for the contention whenever they're going to Auto Club in about 2 to 3 months. But it's going to be an interesting race to put it mildly. I really like Iowa and its flows.
It's going to be an intriguing race in turn, as this is essentially the final short track of the campaign. All the other ovals are 1.5 miles or bigger on the calendar, so keep that in mind for the rest of the season. Let's take a look at your championship standings for the driver's side, presented by Butt Kicker. And one thing to note, just 2 points were closed up by Connor Harrington once the drops were factored in, so that deficit is going to be immensely difficult for Connor Harrington to close up. 841 is the point total for Adam Blocker entering today, but don't forget, there's a lot of tightness when it comes to the fight for third on back, especially after Henry Bennett scored his first victory in the IndyCar Series in his career last time out.
Yeah, you stole the words right out of my mouth. You know, I was going to say, finally the British actually broke that bad luck streak of, getting to top 3 spots and now winning the races. But I think this win at Twin Rigging Motegi actually gave him a little bit of a second win, and I can't wait to see what the Brit Green Adrenaline Power Slide driver has to do in this track.
It's going to be intriguing how things play out for several of these drivers, and in turn, some of those finishing running spots at Twin Ring Motegi impacted the team standings, presented by HyperX. Private label Team Hype is still on top of the team standings, but for Adrenaline Motorsports Red, that victory was huge for the Lorenzo because it helped gain them a little bit more in the points tallies. Keep in mind, though, Private Label Team Hype still had 3 drivers finish up at the front of that race. Also, Graphics LPM had several contenders throughout that race.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking over here. Brophy got second, Harrington third, Joshua Chin fourth. Harry got first, but the rest of his team just couldn't back it up that talk into Motegi. Of course, a little bit of a nutrition race the Japanese track provides, but of course, still a lot of rounds to come and go over here in the calendar, so there's still grounds to make up. But I like this battle between 3rd to 5th because everything can happen from over there. You can even see synergy if they have a really good next 2 races. They can even come back into the top 5 fight.
I'm really intrigued on how that's going to fare out, too. Overall, 6 teams have made the 1,000-point mark. Sector 5 has a good chance in moving themselves into that category tonight. Don't forget to join the Power Slide with Adam Blockers and Lonesome. Got that team up to 8th. But the rookie class has been very strong throughout all of Lionheart this season. Here's your rookie standings for the IndyCar Series, brought to you by Butt Kicker. Henry Bennett, after that victory, leads the rookie standings. But there are a few drivers you have to keep an eye on for years to come in this class. Jason Brophy, strong of the ovals, known for his abilities on helping the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series side with Michael Conti. Matt Taylor up there on pace. Aaron Morgan up there on pace. Mike Rasmus up there on pace. Lionel Callisto has been decent in pace all season. Keep in mind that 3rd through 6th fight separated by just 10 points.
It's ridiculous, right? It's like a fraction of a hair separating 3rd to 6, 4th to 6, even 4th to 6 if you want to mention it, even 3rd to 6, even better. But I was talking to Robert Maletska, which is right now in 3rd in practice, a guy that we should be looking for over here, which is really strong in these short ovals and has performed in previous outings. Jason Brophy might have a chance here to close this nearly more than 100-point gap that he has to Henry Bennett, and for him, he needs to do that because he needs to have that cushion very shortened whenever they come to Auto Club.
That rookie class is stacked, let's put it that way, especially with some of the later additions throughout the campaign. But tonight is going to have a lot of emphasis put towards this direction. Let's take a look at your series details presented by Minus 273, the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz, and don't forget to also use the promo code Minus 273 LHRS 15 for 15% off orders. Keep in mind, when it comes to the series, we utilize the Delora IR18 in the Lionheart IndyCar series. Now, the custom fix setup for tonight is going to be something of a talking point. Renzo was talking a bit about this with your defending race winner at this track, Andrew Kinsella, who is also the setup guru for Lionheart competition. It's to where this car tonight is just 7 millimeters off the ground towards the front, 20 millimeters towards the back. And keep this in mind too, you cannot be aggressive on the weight jacker. You go over a certain mark, your car is likely going to snap around within 3 to 10 laps. This could be a very difficult race.
Yeah, it can be a very difficult race, especially the lines in Iowa. You can be very aggressive at the start because the tires are relatively cold, so you can be a little bit more aggressive than usual. But if you do that, you scrub the front rides, and you scrub that front rides, you're gonna need that grip if you go on a very long run, because fuel here can matter. You can save up to 2 to 3 laps depending on the fuel savings. So you really don't want to be scrubbing whenever you are on a very more conservative set, and you want to be as fast as you can on the rest of the grid whenever they start to scrub out.
Things are going to be intriguing tonight, to say the very least, at Iowa, as we take a look at your event details. 10 races have taken place here over 9 years in the Hawkeye State. The pole has never visited HyperX Victory Lane, however, and never once, Lorenzo, has a driver conquered this track more than once. In some cases, 2 of the leaders just led 5 laps to claim the victory. It could go any direction, and oh, by the way, the last visit here was the first time this event finished under caution.
It's going to be an interesting one because Iowa is a track that you kind of have to negotiate your passes. There has to be a certain amount of patience to try to make those overtakes, I think, especially in the beginning. So that's why it builds up the attrition. That's why we had 9 cautions. I hope we don't see that many cautions in this race, but now that I just said it, the likelihood of that might escalate up to 18.
You say that when the Speedway Series came here 3 times, the race leader had spun out. Once via contact, 2 along the bumps, whether it was exit turn 2, entry to turn 3. Tonight could be difficult under the lights at Iowa Speedway as qualifying is underway to determine what could be some critical starting positions for our drivers tonight. Here's a look at Andrew Kinsella, who's looking to try and carry some momentum from last year's race. It's been an up-and-down campaign for one of the newest members of RaceSpotTV's broadcasting crews, but started off with a 17 flat to start. Second time around, though, 16-8, nearly clapping the wall.
Yeah, nearly clapping the wall right there, and so far retaining the lead position. Nobody got closer. Closest guy in the track, Chris Fowler with a 16.834, but still a lot of guys to take that lap as we see Barrett Rolfe. Barrett, might not be the strongest qualifier, but we know one of the strongest starters in this field.
Several more drivers continue to make their way around the racetrack. A couple penalties to keep in mind. Luis Gonzalez Nunez, who had 3 different cause cautions in that Speedway Series event, had his first AC of this year's campaign to the IndyCar Series side last time out. He'll have an EOL penalty. Ken Hacker also will have his penalty served for an EOL from Michigan, as he did not take part in the last event. Brant, in particular Jay Brant, will also get a penalty. That will see him at the end of the longest line for tonight's event as well. But Joshua Chin to the top of the board, 16.799. Jason Brophy, his teammate, tied with Andrew Kinsella. Connor Harrington, a 16.812. Private label team hype is on the pace because Philip Kraus just made it a 1.345 for the team with more than 2 minutes to go in the session.
And for Adrenaline Motorsport Red, that's the last thing you really want to see, Red. Basically, the entire outing of private label team hype in top 5, and in my opinion, this is one of these cases where position matters, right? It's a short track. You need to be as close as you can to the front because you really don't want to be fighting towards the back. So it's going to be an interesting one as we see Rob finish up his first lap.
And he has been the qualifying king in the Speedway Series this year several times. The factory back driver has been on the pole. He is a threat to start in the pole in this series too, since starting in this series just a few weeks ago, looking to try and put himself in the pole category, where he's already done so 3 times in this series. Yes, indeed, today, a 16.796, 3/1000ths of a second.
Insane.
And he was someone we talked to in the past who mentioned he prioritizes qualifying. We see why, as Henry Bennett making his way around the racetrack, trying to build up speed, trying to make it back-to-back victories. He said last time out he was not expecting a victory at Twin Ring Motegi. We'll see how this qualifying run is, a 16.835. That first lap was not the greatest, Lorenzo. It's so important, as talked about, to build up that pace for that second lap by staying up along that wall the first time.
Yeah, you really need to be close. But Bennett's still in the top 10, so relatively in a good position in this 33 car field. So let's see what Alexis Newsom, she's a very strong driver. Robert said she might be the one to watch as well here in this short track. But what a lap for Robert. And I have in his strategy might fit him really well in this race if he starts at the pole position.
Alexis Newsom looking for some good luck when it comes to this side. Look at that time, though. Alexis Newsom to the pole. A 16.794. The top 17 make it the top 18. Separate by just a 1/10 of a second. And that's just the level of competition you have come to expect when it comes to qualifying in Lionheart action. But the drivers are getting ready for tonight's starting grid. Let's get ready to take a look. Qualifying was a thrower once more from Iowa as Alexis Newsom makes it a factory-backed 1-2. Just 2/1000ths of a second the difference between her and Robert Malechka III. Joshua Chin starts the inside of row 2, 5/1000ths of a second off the pole, while Andrew Kinsella starts in 4th, the defending race winner in Iowa. Jason Brophy starts in 5th with Connor Harrington looking for some valuable points tonight from 6th spot. Philip Kraus started off his career in this series with back-to-back second-place runs, looking to rebound after a horrific run at Twin Ring Motegi. Adam Frazier is the first of the independents in 8th. Tower Graf in 9th, coming off a decent run in Japan, with Chris Fowler trying to carry momentum forward from 10th. Henry Bennett, the defending race winner this season, starts in 11th, with Matt Taylor in 12th position. Keep an eye on him. He's had a good track record here. Brian Otis and Jason Galvin start 13th and 14th, with Brian Beard and Joe Branch 15th and 16th. Michael O'Brien starts in 17th tonight, with Ricky Harden looking to do well tonight after having technical issues that sent him to the inside wall in Japan. David Larkamp starts in 19th with Aaron Morgan in 20th. James Grahula starts 21st. Mike Rasmus 2/10 off the pole in 22nd. Mike Rigney starts 23rd tonight with Ron Hacker 24th spot, 2.5 seconds just about off. With Barrett Rowe 3/10 behind in a far back spot in 25th. He was the last driver to take a time with Lionel Kalisto 26th. AJ Musselman, known for strategy gambles, 27th. Tony Shalwin 28th. Luis Gonzalez Nunez looking for something, anything to smile about from 29th. Matt Houston in 30th. Rest of your grid, Scott Holmes 31st, James Brandt 32nd, and Ken Hacker rounds out your entrants for tonight's action. Let's take a look at your featured onboard cameras for tonight as the drivers roll themselves to the racetrack for the first of 2 pace laps. First, it's Tyler Graff with the Midwest Simulations onboard. Midwest Simulations, makers of the Spotlight's visual spotter system. You watch the track, we'll watch the rest. Carrying the HyperX onboard camera tonight, it's Joshua Chin. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game. Carrying the Graphics Esports onboard camera tonight, it's Mike Rasmus. Graphics Esports, world-class design from the real world to virtual. Visit GraphicsEsports.com. And the last of our featured onboard cameras tonight, with the butt kicker on board, it's Mike Rigney. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. For more information, visit thebuttkicker.com. We'll have onboard cameras throughout the entire pack tonight. Again, 33 cars have made themselves out to Iowa Speedway tonight. 229 laps the distance. Lorenzo, what keys to victory tonight?
Save tires, save fuel. I'll try to alternate the strategies, and if you're in the back, move up as quickly as possible. Can't wait to see. I'm going to pick one driver right here that could win this. I'm going to pick Maletzka.
We'll see how Robert Maletzka III does. Remember, he trying to make a late charge in the Speedway Series. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and this is the start of the Midwest Simulations Iowa 200. We're underway from Iowa. And a clean start for a majority of the drivers. Robert Maletzka III able to hold on to second, all while Alexis Newsom pulls away by 5 car lengths. She leads the first lap from Iowa. Nice clean start. Most of these drivers already trying to get themselves single file for the most part. In fact, just about the entire top 10 is that way, except for Connor Harrington trying to make a move on Jason Brophy to try and become one of the first of the private label team hype machines now. Again, this is a fight currently for 5th position. Give Connor Harrington the space. Joshua Chin leads that team's contingency from 4th.
Gonna be an interesting one how these private label team hype guys will behave right now. One driver that I'm looking at is kind of dipping through the field of sorts might be Henry Bennett, because he's finding himself on the bottom line. Bottom line might be faster at the beginning, but you can see because of the draft, especially in the backstretch, it makes it easier for you to come back on track. You might lose 1, 2, 3 spots just because you're starting all the way into the bottom line. Now he's finding himself at the current moment in P14.
And losing 1, 2, 3 spots, he's already lost 3 of them, to be precise. The early going, the biggest mover in the opening first 5 laps already. Scott Holmes +4. These drivers making their way around this racetrack quickly. Keep in mind 17 1s to 17 3s. The pace expected. You see the mid-pack bearing things out. You can see just how difficult it is just to be able to get yourself some clean air, because this is a multi-groove racetrack. Several drivers like to run up against the wall. Some like to run that yellow line around the bottom. Others like to run the middle. It can be so difficult to search for that clean air.
It can be very, very difficult, especially in the latter portions whenever the tires starts to get a little bit warm than usual. So you're trying to find the grooving and still being consistently fast. As we look this battle between P7 and Aaron Morgan, Brian Beer, and Mike Rasmus, even Joe Branch in the middle over there. So it's going to be not only difficult to overtake, but it can cause some confusion whenever you think, oh, you're clear, and you come back on track and you might be on someone else's wing. But again, A little bit of a hectic start in the back, but everybody getting clean and crisp so far, which is what we like to see.
Alright, some drivers getting spread apart. Joshua Chin nearly a full second ahead of Connor Harrington. Andrew Kinsella has stayed tucked in just about behind Robert Molechka III, though, separated by a quarter of a second. These drivers able to build up a buffer about half a second already from Joshua Chin, so looking like some decent starts overall. But for others like Harrington, Kraus, and Brophy, some ground needs to be made up already early. They're not some of the fastest cars, but like on the Speedway Series, it can take some work to close up that deficit.
It can, and what I like over here, I think it is that when I was talking about safe tires and save a little bit of fuel as well, they might be going a little bit more conservative, maybe mode 4 right here, maybe mode 5, so you try to get a really good run, as we're going to be talking about later, the stink line of the field. You can maybe stretch it out to 3 laps extra, 4 laps extra, and in a race that might cause some attrition, especially in the mid portion of the race, that might be essential.
Keep this in mind, the estimated fuel stints were a lap shorter than the Speedway Series margins, 57 to 58 laps near contact, as Henry Bennett just about had his front wing sawed off there. Car in front, that's Tyler Graff. Let's take a look from Jason Graff's viewpoint and Jason Galvin's viewpoint, I should say, from the thumbs up cancer down LPM machine, as Bennett wants some of the spots he lost back.
Yeah, again, if you're in the back, start to move up those spots as quickly as you can, because once the tires scrub out, it becomes more difficult for you to overtake. You can still be fast in it because you're still relying on the draft, but you're gonna basically the 3 line comes back into 12 line. And I just got one information which is going to be interesting for us. If we go green, I think the trickiest thing is going to be the pit entry, because it has a very, very nifty braking spot as we see Chin making the move.
So that moves Chin quickly up to 3rd spot. Quickly reeled in that gap, as Kinsella did lose about a second or so from Robert Molechka III in the course of about 5-10 laps. Last time we checked in from that group, but to get back to that description for that pit entry and exit, keep this in mind. The drivers, for some of them, did not get the chance for green flag stops in the Speedway side. Some of that crossover is here tonight. The drivers under green flag conditions had originally tried to get through the entry of turn 3, go on the apron, make sure they don't come up, because that was the preferred mark. It can be difficult to enter this pit lane, though, and stick to that apron.
Yeah, because that apron doesn't provide you a whole lot of grip, and even at the pit exit as well. I was seeing, I think, whenever they did the restart sign, but the restart stop, as we see a car. Is that Barrett Rolfe?
Yes, it is, and Barrett Rolfe's excursion in the IndyCar Series is off to a rough stint, as these cars are right to the limit, keep in mind, in terms of how close to the ground they are, and how you can make the adjustments. He got a little bit of bumping and banging, though. That may have demolished the entire suspension. That is one of the hackers he was driving side by side with. And that's going to be a problem and a half, as you see by turn 3.
Yeah, unfortunate right there for Barrett Rolfe. We were talking about, I think, I might have jinxed him a little bit right there, because he's usually one of those strong starters. We saw that in Michigan, right? So it's unfortunate to see him fading away and being all the way thrown to the back of this race. But unfortunate, but it's kind of part of racing, as we see also the 21 back to the pit as well.
That's the car who hit him. So Ron Hacker has also acquired damage as a result of that. Both cars already seen their drivers out of the cockpits. We're down 2 drivers before the halfway mark in stint 1. Taking a look at some of the other drivers, meanwhile, as some of the packs, they've really separated themselves out. You have some fighting amongst some of them, but others have lost significant amounts of time. 14 seconds back is this fight with the butt kicker on board with Mike Rigney, for example. They have lost oodles of time to the leaders, and the leaders are already approaching this group.
Yeah, he's about, I was just checking right here, he's 14 seconds back, and this is a fast lap. You said that, right? Basically going for 17 seconds, 18 seconds whenever the tires scrub up a little bit. So you gotta make those grounds quick, like I said. Otherwise, you're gonna be caught by the leader with the very little to notice. We are barely into this race, barely going to 10% of this race. We're on lap 26, so really quickly, the leader approaching.
First car who could play being a victim to a lap down here, Luis Gonzalez Nunes, then Matt Houston, Ken Hacker, James Grahua, Tony Shalin and company are just up the road. And here's the thing: when you reach traffic, as we've seen throughout the campaign at some of the short tracks, the aero wash is mighty prevalent. It can be a struggle to pass by traffic. Phoenix is a great example of that. The lead has already shrunk to a 1 second gap because of this traffic.
Yeah, we saw even that, I think, in the Open Series, if I recall correctly, last season, where, of course, it is open sets. It makes a difference, but still, it is a very, very hard track for you to overtake, especially if you're trying to battle for the top. You really don't want to be the second car in the back, because if you are the second car in the back, you're going to have to rely on scrubbing those tires to try to get through it. And as I saw, apparently Phil managed to overtake Connor Harrington in the previous lap.
Hearing that, race controllers ruled the contact between Ron Hacker and Barrett Rolfe under green flag conditions as avoidable contact. So that's something to keep in mind for post-race reports for the Pellenny side. Let's take a look now. Jason Brophy trying to dart around a little bit, trying to leapfrog Andrew Kinsella as well. It's gotten to where Chin has ran away from this pack by almost 3 seconds.
Wow. It's insane.
That's just the nature of the racetrack, though. You have to consider it can be a track where you get those large margins at times that can then be dispelled by battles or traffic.
Yeah, it's one of those things that for you, if you are in the front, you have to clear traffic as fast as you can, right? But the problem is, this is not a road racing. You don't get a blue flag. You have to make your own effort to try to close down the gap and be effective when you do that overlap. And as you can see now, well, let's get Newsom in some heavy traffic.
The battle for the race lead has compressed to the point where Chin is within 0.8 of Newsom. And this group has been dangerous. Last time by down the backstretch, Ken Hacker nearly came down to Alexis Newsom. Newsom finally clears on by Ken Hacker. So that means 29 cars on the lead lap, and this traffic is not playing nice. You talked about no blue flags. It's coming clear with how Newsom's trying to exit the corners. The impatientness is starting to come in. She just wants to pass him.
And she just wants to pass him as fast as she can, because she really don't want to scrub out the right front. And again, I mentioned you need that right front grip, especially in the longer run, because we're approaching basically the halfway mark for these cars to go over the sin. And the really one thing she doesn't want to have, of course, she has a teammate on her 6 at the current moment, but you really don't want to be facing that teammate the entire time. In the meanwhile, I think Kinsella might be one of those guys who might have took that right front, because he's having to find some different lines to defend Jason Brophy at the current moment, and they don't have traffic.
That's an interesting thing to point out as you take a look from Joshua Chin's viewpoint on how this traffic is. With the HyperX onboard camera, and you can tell just trying to pick a line, hope that line sticks, hope it's enough to make a move. One car hits the wall in front of Chin. That is, I believe, Ken Hacker who scrapes the wall in that case. Making it side by side. Ken Hacker now to the outside. Chin loses significant ground as a result of all that carnage entering turn 3.
Yeah, and that got a little bit feisty, of course. The good thing is, the first car in behind Joshua Chin is Andrew Kinsella, but he's 2 seconds back. And again, Kinsella having to fend off both of Chin's teammates at the current moment. They don't have traffic. Imagine when Kinsella gets into that traffic and has to still fend off 2 guys that are still looking for that position of Kinsella's.
Take a look at the battle for 8th, meanwhile. Adam Frazier, Chris Fowler, Ryan Otis, Matt Taylor are all in this grouping of cars. Most of them have now chosen the middle line as a result of how things are faring out here. Keep in mind this group 7 to 8 seconds back already. That is 3 seconds behind this respective group, and this is what you talked about with Kinsella. Keep in mind, Kinsella's the one who built this setup. And that's surprising, knowing he put in hundreds of laps to make sure this car was ready for this race, and he's the one who's struggling on it. Lorenzo.
Oh, sorry. I was talking in private to some other drivers right here. Just looking at the lines he's doing, he's staying middle line, middle top line. That's the line that you kind of have to conserve those tires. It's easier for them. You see Brophy on the bottom side. He's trying to dive and try to get closer and break away from the draft. So he scrubs the tires a little bit more than usual, right? But for now, on this point of the run, I think Kinsella might be getting a little bit of an edge on both drivers because they're trying harder, but he's conserving those tires whenever he wants to go maybe into the final 3 or 4 laps of this thing.
Here's Philip Kraus, meanwhile, still in 6th position. And this has been intriguing as well when it comes to the development of Philip Kraus, because he's always been a very quick driver of the iRacing service. We've seen that in the ISOWC, for example, in many different official series. And he's taken to the series like a fish in water almost, with how he's performed.
Absolutely, and it is one of those things that you kind of have to find flexibility and things like that. But I think seeing Kraus coming into this competition and doing really well so far proves how well of just the driver he is, and everybody else is actually doing really good in terms of flexibility. Right? I think this is what the car provides, especially with the new tires for the road side, and that makes the driving style a little bit more similar to real life. So the improvements being made to the IR18 have been nothing but great in this current build.
Absolutely. That build, of course, coming into play just about a week or so ago on the iRacing service, and some of the adjustments went to how the tires fare out on many of the chassis parts when it comes to the IR18. Newsom, by the way, still in the race lead, nearly 50 laps led. And keep in mind, these are Newsom's first career laps led in the Lionheart IndyCar series presented by Butt Kicker. An impressive task by Alexis Newsom with how things have fared out so far. We're getting close to just 20 cars on the lead lap as well at Newsom's pace.
Yeah, we're getting close to 20 cars on the lead lap, and it's going to come down quickly and swiftly. And talking about the fuel stint, they're on lap 50. They are due to come to the pit stop if we're going for 58 or 57 or 58 laps in the next 7 or 8 laps. So, but looking at the way we were looking at this, we can definitely see cars coming into pit stop in maybe 10 or 12 laps.
You say that. Larkamp and Harden actually both just came in this time by. Started their 49th lap. And here's the difficult part when it comes to the pace here. You go down that pit entry right to your pit box like these two have, you lose about 2 laps on average as a result of that service. You cannot afford a caution flag if you pit during green flag conditions.
Yeah, you cannot get a caution flag. And look at Kinsella getting boxed in. This is insane. What can Kinsella do in these situations? Absolutely nothing. He's just going to get hammered by Team Talent as he gets overtaken for 4th and 5th.
And that's Tony Schoen, his teammate, boxing him in.
No.
I don't know how that discussion's gonna go, because Tony Schoen's had some interesting history on the road courses with the private label team Hype Machines, and now near contact with Philip Kraus's Kraus late arced him up the racetrack. Kinsella losing a couple spots as a result of that. Schoen moves up to the top side. Kinsella now gets a break, nearly coming up the racetrack towards his left front tire. But that's got to be a little bit frustrating either way, knowing even though it's a teammate, you lose multiple spots from that in several seconds.
I imagine what is going on Kinsella's and Schoen's radio or on their Discord team speaking, like, Schoen, please just let me go through. And especially in this late of the run, you really don't want to be hanging all the way back. So I think Kinsella might have to come to some...
Welcome, fresh tires. That's hard on the wall, Ricky Harden. Trying to cut his way around, nearly drove hard into the outside wall, coming out of turn 2. The pace difference, 1.5 seconds between old rubber and fresh rubber today. Here comes Chris Fowler, along with Tyra Graff. Scott Holmes also coming in for service this past time by, as several of the drivers for the mid-pack have elected to come on down, and this is the most dangerous part of a run here at Iowa Speedway is you never know when incidents can happen between those fresh tires and the driver still on track.
Yeah, I really don't know, because right now you're at the point of those who are in the newer tires don't know when to come in. Like, for example, I just heard Kinsella coming in. He's going to come into the pit lane. I think for Kinsella, he has to do that. His right front is cooked. Therefore, he has to come into the pit lane and try a different strategy on the private label team Hype Boys, because they're doing really good with that rubber worn out tires. So as we see also Maletka coming to the pit lane. So undercut over here might be really good for these guys who are wasting those rubbers.
I'm very curious on how this plays out tonight, because in the past, it has been decently strong if you're able to then defend with the multiple lap difference. Keep in mind, some of these drivers have extended that fuel mark as expected, and you talked about Lorenzo by more than 3 laps. Let's get a third off and away. So far during this service, several drivers have already had to change their front wings too. Hardin had to take some service for 14 seconds to change a wing. Chris Fowler, several laps down for wings, and one car is definitely going to add to that list. Jason Brophy now with the damaged right front after crashing into the barrels. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, a little bit of shades of what really close to what happened in the 500, and nothing you can do about it. It shows how tricky it is, and there's the car in front of him. It wasn't even an intention. I think both drivers kind of missed the line, got a little bit loose, and whenever they went for the correction, Brophy just got a little bit of, can we say, dirtier air or braking zone, and got confused in it.
I don't think I've seen aero push in the braking zone, but you have to think there might have been a lockup with that checkup moment in turn. Brophy, who was in line for one of his best runs of the season, a bit of trouble. Meanwhile, Alexis Newsome had some checkups coming off the pit lane. That's involving the car right in front. That is Brian Beard. Robert Malechka III has passed, and the caution is out. Caution flag is out for the first time.
Oh, Matt Houston.
Matt Houston's going to make this race a lot more intriguing, as several cars may have to take the wave here. Look at this.
Whose car is that?
Is that Shawan?
Looks like Shawan ran out of fuel, and whenever trying to make it to the pit lane, just made it confusing for everybody.
Tony Shawan has not had some pretty moments this season. There it is right there. You see the loss of speed. Car hits behind. Second car hits behind, and then calamity. And even then, if there was still fuel, why are you lifting off at the top of the straightaway to come into the pit lane?
I think he was trying to come bottom and just got spooked with everybody coming around. Nothing he can do over there. You know, when we mentioned about it, you're trying to overextend your stint and you're trying to find your way coming to the pit lane, but the guys with the new rubber are so much faster than you, and you kind of have to time this right. I was going to mention, Alexis nearly did his time that wrong because she cut back on one of the cars that had better tires at the last possible second. She made it. But the best thing that could have happened to Matt Houston, because he was about to come to the pit lane with 64 laps in.
You're right, Matt Houston, who's known for rolling the strategy dice, keep in mind, now gets the freshest tires in the entire field after starting 30th. He'll have to wait for several drivers to pass on by, though.
Oh, no.
That's not too much of a panic. He's still on the lead lap regardless, but with the waves, 21 will be on the lead lap. So,
but it's going to be interesting how Houston negotiates this, because he has basically 10 laps of better tires than everybody else on the restart.
Matt Houston may have just had one of his best moments of the year if this works out in his favor. But it's Robert Malechka III, Alexis Newsome, Joshua Chin, Philip Kraus, Adam Frazier, then Houston, who are all on somewhat fresher tires. And I think Chin, Kraus, and Frazier just realized they may as well come down, because they will elect to put new tires in, some more fuel in their tanks. So move Houston up to third for the restart.
Yeah, because if you pit now, you kind of make this a little bit of a two-stopper. And you don't have to overfuel way too much the car or put a full stint whenever you're coming down to the pit lane. I think you cut about overall maybe 8 laps on the stint. So that's a big helpful whenever you come down to the final pit stop, because if you pit around lap 185 or something like that, you have about 45 laps to get to the end of the race of the 229 program. So it makes the car a little bit lighter and easier on the fuel, easier on the tires, so you can actually fight a little bit more than usual in comparison to what you previously had on a full stint whenever they started this race, or are going to do on the restart.
I'm really intrigued on how this all fares out, and for those wondering about the length of the caution, this is a track known for its lengthier caution periods. 5 caution flag laps are the average when it comes to Iowa Speedway, especially when cars are a lap down. That's to make sure everyone gets properly in through their pit cycles. It opens up several different pit stop options in turn for several of the drivers, but the amount of wave arounds are going to be extensive here for once they get one to go. Drivers taking the wave: Kinsella, Harrington, Bennett, Holmes, Fowler, Otis, Larkamp on 17 lap old tires, Branch, Callisto, Galvin, Taylor, Rasmus, O'Brien, Morgan, and Graf. As we are getting ready for that signal, and Ken Hacker, who is also in line to move to 1 lap down after earlier troubles, elected to not take the wave around. So 1 to go signal this time by. As you discussed, strategy could now be very paramount, I should say, for some of these drivers who elected to top off and, in turn, only lost a couple spots.
Yeah, and I really am interested to see how this restart is going to go, because Alexis Newsom, she's going to, and Maletka, really interested to see how they negotiate that, especially with Newsom having 1 car in the middle, which is Brian Beard. How quickly does she get away from Brian Beard, especially with his connection issues?
That's going to be a massive concern, you'd have to think, especially seeing that in front. Beard has had some technical issues here and there within the past month or so. Barrett Rolfe, who is also mixed in with some of these cars, has indicated he will stay low. But back to racing for the Midwest Simulations Iowa 200. A good launch from Malechka the third. Now how does Newsom try and get around the lap traffic in front, as there's some of the drivers electing to give space to the race leaders?
You can see the private label Team Hype guys being aggressive on that restart. Both Krause and Chin going at Houston on turn 1.
Newsom still boxed in. James Korhula is boxing in these respective competitors. But Matt Houston restarted 4th overall on the racetrack after some of the services. See how things fare out. All while Robert Malechka III, thanks to Brian Beard, leads by 1.5 seconds.
That famous thing of racing with your brain, right? I like what Malechka is doing. His strategy, when he told me, looks like he's going to be really good so far if he just plays this one out again on the second stint.
Keep in mind, the strategy that's coming into play for Matt Houston is a similar one, I should say, to the Speedway Series before the Caution Bonanza came to play, that he had been attempting. That was albeit with 25 less miles to deal with. Houston, though, still up 26 positions. One thing to also note, Lorenzo, different fuel modes may come into play, because when it comes to custom fixed setups for the Dallara IR18, you can have your in-car tools. Fuel maps are amongst those.
And yeah, and we saw even in open series, you have to adjust basically every single lap the car to try to make it as fast as possible. You can see even Connor Harrington, just having some slight issues on the restart. I think got overtaken by Kinsella on the restart, trying to find his grounding. The private label Team High, who's trying to bounce back with the gap that he has to Adam Blocker again. Golden opportunity. Blocker's not here. Blocker's was at Laguna Seca, and he's at Lone Beach for this weekend. So he needs to make up that ground if he really wants to be closer to Adam Blocker in the final rounds, as you see the live standings at the current moment.
Remember, that does not include the drop factored in when it comes to those points. But even with those totals, that's still a decent margin for Blocker if that ends up being the case. Again, we'll have to see how the drops factor in and which races in turn are flopped around. As you see, it'd be a gain of about 20, 30 points or so for Harrington. Bennett's in a better position, though. Kinsella's in a great position. Overall, no major changes amongst the top 5. And all of that does not include the drop factored in after each of the rounds throughout the campaign. So keep that in mind when it comes to those points totals. But 150 to go. Amongst our drivers on track, Robert Muchka III still setting the fastest lap times amongst the race leaders in the 17.6s, stabilized his gap to 3 seconds, all while Houston has fallen behind Philip Kraus to make it a plus 25 for the 99 machine. All while it's 3 wide behind him. That is a little bit hairy.
Put it mildly.
And this is getting hectic, to say the very least, and this does involve some of the lap traffic as one car to the grass. And that is, I believe, Larkamp in that case, as keep in mind, the 62 has some of the oldest tires. That was Matt Taylor, pardon me, in that case. Regardless, Taylor having a scary and sketchy moment there that shuffles him to 20th.
Yeah, just losing the rear grip at the exit of turn number 4 just by scrubbing those tires. Luckily kept it on track. I honestly thought it was going to get sideways whenever he actually got into the exit of turn number 4. So a little bit of a moment for Alcantara, for the Alcantara NHR driver right here, especially for a team that in the current team standings for the points, they needed every good result they could get to get closer to graphics and of Tyler Graf's team.
The reason for the tie, by the way, is Larkamp is the next car back who has now 22 lap, make it 34 lap old tires this time. But speaking of the Alcantara cars, they are still not afraid to pounce, as that involves the mixture of Holmes, Fowler, and Otis in that pack.
Otis getting checked up a little bit on the entry of turn number 3, getting checked up by Fowler on the entry, and now Fowler might get checked up by Scott Holmes in front of him.
That on board was with Lionel Kalisto, and you've seen that door opened up right on the outside line to make the pass. This time goes bottom, and this time lap traffic comes into play. 26th place, AJ Musselman now joins the fray as one more car sends it to the bottom. That is Fowler amongst those competitors who is wanting to clear by this traffic. And remember, Fowler has made it clear with how he's driven. He's not afraid to make bold moves near contact with his front wing there.
Yeah, nearly contact front of rear left to front right of Chris Fowler and Scott Holmes right there as to get clear from Ricky Harden. Now the thing is, does Scott Holmes go on turn 3? Yeah, he's not afraid of going at it again.
Trying to get some moves done. A couple cars getting squirrely on the wall, Lorenzo.
Yeah, Scott Holmes grazed the wall pretty hard right there. Now might have side pod damage, but that brings the Alcantara driver closer and closer.
Holmes not wanting to give this up, has already lost 3 seconds to Henry Bennett. Keep in mind behind them, some of the lap traffic, such as Ricky Harding and company, become a cork in the bottle where they have nearly scraped the wall 3-4 times over the past 2 to 3 laps. Here's that craziness. Jason Galvin is amongst those trying to run away, and he dives underneath the 7 machine, tries to clear to keep up with Lionel Kalisto, who lost more than a second, trying to clear by Ricky Hardin.
Yeah, it's just downrightly insane, this traffic, right? You try to do your best to try to steer yourself away from lap cars, but sometimes you just find yourself box position. It's kind of like what happened to Kinsella with Chowan right before the yellow flag. But it is unfortunate, and again, it is one of those things about racing that you have to be mindful every single lap, and you cannot let that affect and get that under your head. You have to be focused every single time, as Henry Bennett is trying to make his best effort to get it over Connor Harrington, which is right now in the middle of a power slide sandwich.
I was about to say, this is not the race Connor Harrington needed right now if he wanted to gain ground on Adam Blocker. If anything, he needs to be the race leader to realistically close up with the drops, and he's not accomplishing what's needed to eat into Blocker's gap.
If I recall correctly, Well, we did. Oh, we probably have some issues with the 14. Might have gotten close with some back markers right there, or even Maletska actually got a little bit feisty right there. But other than that, he's not an oval specialist, short oval specialist.
It's been intriguing so far, and one of the drivers who had a moment a few laps ago was Matt Taylor, who is our sim experience driver profile for tonight. 23 starts throughout his time in Lionheart IndyCar Series competition. 11 top 10s, still looking for that valuable first win, but he's come close a few times, including top 5s 3 times, including a third, his best finish coming at Silverstone. And of course, Silverstone bringing some wild moments throughout this year's campaign with the fireworks show. That was the battle for the race win between Chin and Blocker, with Blocker carrying the broken rear wing. For Matt Taylor, he's been very competitive throughout the campaign, and we've seen he likes the track when it's rubbered up, and in turn, when it rubbers up, he picks up the pace, picks up the aggressiveness, nearly bobbles down the straight.
And nearly bobbles down the straight, obviously scrubbing those right front tires and the rear front, the rear right tires, as now Tyler gets a little bit dicey on the outside wall.
And taking advantage of that is Taylor in turn, so Matt Taylor is up to 18th position. Here is the panic button moment, though. The race leader, Robert Malechka III, is coming. 18.2s last time by. Malechka III, his average pace the past 10 laps, 18.2 a month. Some of the quickest on the racetrack. The only ones quicker than him are ones that have clean air by a second apiece compared to their competitors on track. And it should be surprised to see Malechka III up here, because we mentioned his qualifying pace on the Speedway side. He's already been on the pole several times in turn for the IndyCar Series. He was amongst those who were contenders at Twin Ring Motegi. Could tonight be the night he brings factory back to victory lane in the IndyCar Series?
Well, it's a guy that has the talent to do it. You know, he is one of the back-to-back winners. I think one of the 2 back-to-back winners in the Speedway Series. And if I recall correctly, the 2 guys that are back-to-back winners in the Speedway Series are both from factory backs, so they can actually do that. So I think it is a matter of when and where does Malechka might get his first win in the series.
Absolutely, and it feeds back into the strength of the rookie class throughout the campaign, as 62 of Larkamp has had to come down after 52 laps. Remember, that driver had undercut the field by 10 laps on the strategy. You look back to Harrington, meanwhile, still holding on in front of Bennett. Adam Frazier is now in their grouping as well. This is for 7th position. Scott Holmes is slowly reeling in this pack, though, with Chris Fowler, Lionel Callisto and company. Those drivers just under 2 seconds back.
And I was looking at Bennett right there. Just tried to hit about, I think, 3-4 laps. Just couldn't get closer. But I think the good thing for them is that they're getting closer to Adam Frazier. And Adam hasn't been doing the best pace so far, even though his last laps were actually very, very decent between the 18 mids to 18 lows. But you can see Connor slowly finding that groove to get closer and maybe do that overtake. But then again, the tires are so scrubbed in that making that overtake requires to be on the outside line and holding it the best you can.
This almost feels like an in-between mark between what we've seen for the Retro Series earlier this year, what the Speedway Series put on a couple days ago, and what we see tonight for the IndyCar Series. Because the Retro Series, Renzo included the need to be in clean air to be able to hold on to the race lead. You kept the lead if you kept the clean air. Speedway Series, drivers were describing it, and fans alike, as almost watching Talladega, but with Indy cars. Tonight seems like the in-between.
Yeah, it's a little bit in between because you're doing fast laps, fast pace, but it's kind of like such a short lap. You know what that kind of feels? It feels like Richmond of sorts, you know? Of course, Richmond is a shorter track. Has a little bit of a shallower banking than Iowa. Iowa has 12 to 14 progressive banking in the car. But the race is kind of like similar of sorts. but this being...
Trouble, turn 3 and 4. One car has just hit the wall coming to the pit lane. We stay green, however, as that is Scott Holmes who bounced off the wall going on the apron through 3 and 4. These are the dangers we talked about, Lorenzo. And the dangers came into play right here.
Yeah, you're going to see no grip hitting that front wing right there. But I think if you really want to hit something here, Justin, hit the front wing and don't get a suspension damage. So best case scenario for Scott Holmes.
Well, you say that his pit stop has reached more than 20 seconds, so that's a sign of more than that. Yes.
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, suspension damage. I thought the way he hit that car, that might have been only wing damage. But I'm just getting messages from Adam Crane. Said always try to extend your pit stop the best you can.
Well, we've seen the example of that with Matt Houston, who is still in 6th, mind you. How things have played out in this respective race. Looking at some of the other cars are currently battling, Matt Taylor, he has not made it easy. And neither has Chris Fowler, neither has Mike Rasmussen company, as Matt Taylor
on the wall.
In the wall, and now off the lead lap, here comes Alexis Newsom, who has to drive around the inside. And I was about to say, the Alcatech machines were like a roadblock from Letchka to the third for several laps. The roadblock just fell apart.
I don't know what's happening, if it is program-friendly fire, because Fowler was in front. Matt Taylor's from Alcantech. He gets lined up in the wall, loses time. That happened to Kinsella and Shaw on the first stint. What happens to team communications at that moment?
You have to wonder, indeed, how things played out. By the way, Scott Holmes finished his service in the pit box. His suspension said no because his car refused to turn right, and he stopped right next to the pace car. He is now on a tow truck. Looking at Newsom 2 seconds back, several drivers making their way down on the apron underneath her. These are amongst the drivers who can extend it amongst some of the furthest. Newsom can go about 8 more laps or so, but the drivers to keep an eye on the most strategy-wise may not come into play because James Grahula and Jay Brandt have rammed each other down the front stretch. Grahula slammed to the wall. Brandt has broken his wing. Grahula slow at the bottom of the racetrack. Take a look at the RaceSpotTV replay. Here's the cause. There's the effect.
Yeah, and unfortunate right there for the car behind, right? Nothing he could do over there because Grahula was just coming back on track. You can see now Grahula coming into the pit lane as he's going to get some extensive side pod damage. Might be unrepairable for the engine, but I really am interested because the new build actually allows you to fix basically the entirety of the car. I think the engine might be applicable over here, but the pit stop might be lengthy.
I mean, put this way. When it comes to the NASCAR Cup Series cars in the iRacing service, an engine change takes 35 minutes. How many laps can you lose in 35 minutes? It's a lot. Let's put it that way.
The whole race?
Yes.
Oh,
Meanwhile,
well, that's getting very wild traffic.
Keep in mind there are estimated 32 minutes to go if this race stays green from this point, as keep that curse in mind for later tonight as Tyler Graff rolls into the pit lane. Joshua Chin is amongst those who will move up a spot because Newsom has come on in, all while traffic jams continue to build up around the racetrack as a result of the tire differences.
Yeah, and you guys just saw that. I was just seeing that previous to the feed over here. That gave me a little bit of an anxiety attack.
There's plenty of carnage, let's put it that way. If you look towards, say, where Ricky Harden is still trying to chug along several laps down, there are several drivers trying to drive on by. Nearly drifting up from the apron was Letchka to the third, who peels on in to open up his pit window with 105 to go this time by. Keep in mind, Harrington is almost a full lap down at the start of his pit sequence, too.
Yeah, and he just pitted to try to avoid getting that full lap down, try to cut back his time on Robert Maletska. Like, Robert's pace has been nothing but insane the entirety of the stint as Maletska is in the pit lane. He was basically clocking 18 zeros to basically 18 threes on average. So I think nobody on the track was actually doing that, and Connor just boxed in front of him. So it's going to be tricky how to negotiate that on the exit of the pit lane.
Robert Wenchker III has completed service. Alexis Newsom is at least a few seconds behind that. Rob is indeed in front of Newsom as once more. With this sequence, Chin able to continue to extend. Kraus, Fraser, Houston. Early also able to push on forward. Drivers, the furthest they have gone is 66 laps throughout this run. So that's a number to keep in mind in case something comes into play, especially since there are 4 cars on the lead lap currently. Taking a look at Chin right now with that 1.4 second advantage over his teammate Phil Kraus, and known for being able to save fuel fairly well. He's able to get to lap 100 to go. 100 to go on the mark. He'll bring in Philip Kraus with them, both of them in sync on the strategy. So just about everybody has completed their service during this green flag run. Now Lorenzo, just Matt Houston trying to stretch it.
And imagine if Matt Houston gets the yellow flag again like he did last time by. He's on 65 laps, so he's due to come to the pit lane like now. So he's coming into the pit lane. So the driver that's stretching it out longer than everybody right now is the AJ Musselman, and he's also coming to the pit lane. So right now we're kind of like back to ground zero, but let's see who got an undercut or overcut that is actually working on this track.
Keep in mind, tire differences could be critical. The weight of how much fuel is in the tank for the final run could be critical. Some of these drivers won't have to pit again until about 35, 40 laps to go in the race. Right now with this cycle closing out, just 8 cars are on the lead lap, and Matt Houston will not be one of them. 9.1 of the pit box. The overcut does not see him with decent track position. 25 plus seconds back on the leader.
Yeah, and it's going to be tricky for you to negotiate that with 22 seconds back to the leader. But again, what a job from Maletska to keep everyone at bay. And look at this traffic that he's facing. Fowler, Harrington, Fraser, and Morgan so far. Look at this insanity.
Absolute craziness when it comes to the tire differences. All months to battle for 9th. Connor Harrington, those trying to mix their way in. Chris Bowers in this grouping. Adam Fraser, Aaron Morgan. Several cars who are also laps down are in this fight. You've got a various mixture of cars for different types of battles in this. And others who are trying to make recovery drives also mixed in with various levels of pace and grip. It's all going to be intriguing on how things play out with under 100 laps to go from iRacing's virtual Iowa Speedway. RaceSpotTV and ESTV will have more coverage of the Midwest Simulations Iowa 200 right after this. You're watching the Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by Butt Kicker from the virtual Iowa Speedway. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV and ESTV's coverage of the Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by Butt Kicker in the Midwest Simulations Iowa 200 from iRacing's virtual Iowa Speedway. Justin Prince, Lorenzo Bonder with you with our Junior Kankipani and the producer's seat as we are under 85 to go this time by. It's Robert Malechka III who leads by about 1 second over teammate Alexis Newsom. Malechka III looking for redemption after having a dominant car to start off at Twin Ring Motegi. Lost the lead after several cars elected to stay out. With the passing by of Henry Bennett, Bennett went on to win the race. How the tides have turned, Bennett is now one of the last cars on the lead lap and trying to defend his position here along with Jason Galvin. Lorenzo.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. You know what that's doing? That's bringing both Newsom and Krause closer and closer to him. And you know that's not working for Malechka. 4 laps in a row, he was on the bottom line. He's scrubbing those tires like a madman. And the guy that has 2 better laps on field than his teammate is not good. It's not good at all. And now you can see Newsom just about 1 or 2 car lengths behind.
4/10 separating the two now. Philip Krause and Joshua Chin are still several seconds back on the racetrack. Krause 5 seconds for the leader respectively. Chin about 10 seconds. There's a little bobble down the front straightaway. That's coming into play more and more, I've noticed, Lorenzo, as this track continues to see more rubber buildup, and in turn, the track temperature continues to pick up. The in-sim time, keep in mind, is just past 10 p.m. So it is getting pretty toasty with these cars getting very feisty. The tempers may be getting hot as well in the cockpits.
Yeah, just taking a look right there. That was Tyler Graff on the outside. Look at Malechka going outside in so he can clear himself as fast as he can from Ricky Harden right now. So really dodgy action right there, but got clean through at the end of the day. But now the problem kind of goes to Alexis Newsom. Look at her now; she has to negotiate about 5 cars that are fighting for positions. And what can Alexis do other than be patient and just work that traffic out?
Traffic giveth, traffic taketh. Almost exactly what the Speedway Series race. 1.5 seconds plus now the race lead. There's your biggest movers and shakers of the night. Lionel Callisto quietly has gone up 18 spots to the 8th position. This so happens to be right around this gaggle as well. As trying to make the moves now is Tyler Graff and company, as Ricky Hardy nearly scrapes the wall, and our car nearly scrapes the wall as well. Right in front of Alexis Newsom, that is Larkamp, who's on the much older rubber, who's trying to stay along the top wall. There's the carnage right on behind, though, with Graff, Frazier, Brophy, Morgan, Harden, Branch, Harrington, Rasmus, Rigney, O'Brien, all within decent range.
Whoa.
And you see just how uncomfortable that 7 machine's been in the backdrop, too, near contact again with the wall.
Yeah, really uncomfortable. One of the slowest car on track. Now Harrington is in the middle. Who's that? I think in the back. I think that was Steven.
Trouble!
Larkamp.
Cars in the wall! Several cars lining up against the safer barrier. It's Aaron Morgan who is demolished. Morgan trying to stay up against the wall as he dives underneath. This might bring out a caution. He is underneath the yellow line, though, so that will keep it green flag conditions here at Iowa. Unfortunate for Morgan, and that, I think, might have been the cork that was right there. From the initial contact, the wing's gone by then, and Ricky Harden ends his suffering by sandwiching in.
Yeah, and Ricky just barely made it through the pits, but somehow, someway, Barney, the flagman, didn't want to give a yellow flag after the spin. But you can see traffic just being very hectic so far because of what happened to Larkamp at the start-finish line. So it's those same things of Iowa and these short tracks can bring this confusion of trying to make the moves up and down, but somehow, some way, we stay under green.
Those were teammates indeed who did make that contact in that sequence. But again, that was all trying to avoid Larkamp, who ended up scraping the wall by the flag stand that time around. All this is bearing out where Kraus is still 7 seconds back. Joshua Chin, though, I've noticed, has lost significant amounts of time. He was 10 seconds back last time checked in. He's now more than 15 back to the point where he's behind Andrew Kinsella. And I'm wondering what's up their sleeve in that camp now, since they have a lot of fuel on hand. The drivers from private label Team Hype, just 31 laps that are amongst your top competitors.
Chin on 31 laps, just taking a look really quickly right here, and Kraus on 32. So I think they're trying to go for maybe a lap 100. If they go, maybe go into one lap 185 or 86 to try to be within a 40 lap range where the car can be lighter. They can push hard of that car and, depending on circumstances, be closer to Maletka, because I think right now the only thing they can have right now is a yellow flag. About a lap 180, still stay within the lead lap, but for now Chin is getting dicey. He's about 1 second behind Maletka.
And that could be intriguing now, because you see that interval? How Chin is trying to save. He has just about lost a lap. If anything, there might be something going on with Chin, the rate they're going. Kraus isn't losing that much time even, and he was just 5 seconds back a while back. Chin immediately gives up the ghost.
Yeah, and now Chin is a lap back, and I just, and thanks Grim for letting me know this, Adam Crane. He did a sub 18 on lap 160 with scrubbed tires on lap 41. That is insane. His pace unmatched by any driver in this grid. I think only Alexis Newsom, his teammate, is doing a similar lap, but she's on traffic. But still, what a race from Maletka. And he told me he wasn't a short oval specialist.
Well, he's definitely proving that might not be the case. Might be able to drive at all types of tracks. As we see the battle going on for 6th position, at Jason Galvin, Henry Bennett. Lionel Callisto is also in this grouping. Frazier also close on behind, as well as Galvin clears and holds on to the 6th position. Give credit to Galvin, one of the better performances since his win earlier this season, coming off a rough race at Twin Marine Motegi with a couple different incidents. One involving him running to the back of a car that had elected to pit just 3 car lengths in front of him. The other case spinning off a turn 4. Decent rebound tonight for the back-to-back weeks of competition. Taking a look at Alexis Newsom. You see how bad this traffic is getting. Newsom's now fallen 6 seconds back of the leaders because of some of the battles we've been keeping an eye on here.
Yeah, nothing she can do about it. I think at this current moment, all she has to do is try to minimize the damage to what Phil Kraus and Kinsella are doing. Now, Kinsella just got lapped by Maletka on the previous lap. Lap 170 on the start of lap 170, and now Kraus is the next one.
Newsom having a little bit of a tap there going off the corner, and that's going to be a little bit frustrating. That's with Lionel Callisto. Callisto in turn scrapes the side pod against the outside wall. Have to see how the 97's affected now as a result of that contact, as Newsom still cannot get by the 8th place car.
And again, she has to be really aggressive and get a really good run on 2 and 3, do 2 and 3, or she has to be on that outside line and not count with Henry Bennett's arrow push right here. But you can see she's struggling quite hard, and with that, slowly bringing again Phil Kraus into this. She's 7 seconds back, and Kraus, he has clean air. He's getting closer and closer and closer towards that second place of Alexis Newsom.
Pit window was open, by the way. Matt Taylor has opened up that window by coming down this time by. He was running mid-pack. We'll have to see when the rest of the competitors come on down. It's Newsome. Now goes to the rear wing of the drivers fighting. This is for position. That's the tough conundrum when it comes to being a race leader, but also having cars fighting for position who are lapped down, because you don't want to impede their battle for position and cost them spots, but in turn you don't want to cost you time and in turn yourself spots.
Yeah, you really don't want to lose that. And on that note, it's kind of like what Malechka is doing. He's kind of insulating himself into a possibility of, if he gets a yellow flag, he is safe, because he's basically lapping the entire field, and he's getting closer and closer to Krause. But Alexis, she just lost a full second on the previous lap, though it's getting complicated to her. And
oh,
now
trouble!
Krause is getting to that. Oh!
They all bottle up behind Chin. Caution is out. Henry Bennett and several more is involved, and caution is out once more. This will get everyone to the end on fuel. Oh boy. This all was a bottle up behind Chin and company, and it escalated by turn 1 injury. Kalisto, Bennett, Graf, several more getting significant damage here.
Yeah, Bennett you're going to see Bennett making the move on the inside. Thought he was clear, but just couldn't see Kalisto behind him. And whenever he made that move, it started the big one. But again, I think, and who's that? Was that Alexis Newsom that it was just crossing in front of him?
We'll have to see right here. Wow. Yeah, Newsom may have got a touch of it too. The car on the top, by the way, that was trying to be maneuvered around, that was Ricky Harden, who was a few laps after a pit stop after some damage earlier. Here's a look at how Graf got involved, as Graf joins the scene, and hold your brakes.
Oh. I think not, even if you wanted to hold the brakes, I think contact would have been inevitable, because it was just right in front of him. And just from that was on Newsom. How does she manage to get away with that?
That's incredible. Let's put it that way on how that all fared out. Robert Mueller III, with that massive margin, able to come away with the race lead. Keep in mind, several cars who are one lap down, who had completed service and or who are trying to fare things out, are staying out for now. We'll have to see if this plays out for who takes waves. That's the important mark, since there are 3, count it 3, on the lead lap. There is one trying to roll the dice out of those one lap down cars. Jason Galvin trying to say, you know what? May as well try something different. It's either finish top 5 a lap down, or if you get a caution within 5 laps, he finishes 4th. If he doesn't, he finishes 20th.
It's going to be interesting. He gets the lap back, but the good thing for Galvin is that you cannot have a car in front of the leader. He's going to eventually get that wave around if he doesn't go into the pit lane. So this is one gamble that I think at this point of the race, where I think it might get a little bit more aggressive than usual, it might pay off for him. So it's kind of like that famous meme of, it's a bold strategy, Connell. Let's see if it pays out. I think it applies over here for Jason Galvin at this current moment.
We'll have to see if he ends up backing out of that counterplay. Again, he'll need a caution within 10 laps for it to work. So, for those just tuning in, to reset how things are now faring out. 49 to go this time by. We're currently under caution just the second time tonight, with Malechka III, Alexis Newsom, Philip Krause, Jason Galvin, amongst those who will be on the lead lap with how things are faring out. 1 lap down, Kinsella, Rasmus, Harrington, Otis, O'Brien, Houston, Chin, who has been suffering from an issue for this entire half of the race, Joe Brand. Jay Brand is 2 laps down, 13th. Brian Beard, Henry Bennett, Matt Taylor 2 laps down. The rest of the competitors 3 or more down, and what has not been a pretty night for them. So the wave arounds will be Galvin to get on the lead lap, but needs to take fuel within 10 laps to make it to the end. Joe Branch, Matt Taylor. Branch and Taylor are two intriguing case studies too, because Branch needs a caution to take fuel, while Taylor did take service and is amongst those pinned as a result of this caution.
You know what that might also be is the fact that you got one driver, you got your basically one of your main drivers from Adrenaline Red, Power Slide Red, involved into this, as some of the drivers will get the wave around because of Robert Malecka being the leader. That kind of brings, that a thing of, we gotta make up that ground for Henry Bennett, who just crashed and he was getting good points, and we're gotta be thinking about the team's championship right here. So while it's not the best choice for you to stay out right now, because you're eventually gonna lose 2 laps if they stay under green whenever you pit, it's, I think, a necessary move if you're looking at the team standings at this current moment.
Team standings are likely going to be electrified after this one, as we get ready to go back racing, coming to 46 laps to go this time in the Midwest Simulations Iowa 200. iRacing pace car is off. Green flag is back out. Back racing once more from Iowa. Worth noting, when it came to that caution period, Alexis Newsom did not have an extended stop, so we'll have to see how Newsom's car fares out overall. Again, no apparent damage repair during that sequence. Philip Kraus now could be an intriguing part of this fight, all while Kinsella and company still remain close behind with this fight for position.
Yeah, and you can see the different lines. Kraus trying to take more of an inside line on both Newsom and Malecka, being a little bit more deep into the line, as we see a driver on the apron. Who is that? There is Henry Bennett. He's basically trying to carry his car into the best of he can into the apron, avoiding everybody. But so far, Malecka and Newsom giving no chance whatsoever to Phil Kraus to get closer. Phil nearly ran into the back of the wall.
That was close indeed, as hearing Alexis Newsom's car is indeed okay. This confirmation coming in from Nick DeGroot from Factory Back. So that car is okay, and that is the first good luck going towards her direction in 2 months. Bad luck has gone the way of Harrington all night, though. He's been marred in the back end of the top 10 for 2/3 of this race. He's battling with Ryan Otis for 7th spot.
Yeah, but I think at this current moment, he has to put into his head that he has to fight for team standings as well, because I think you got one of the drivers involved in there, so he has to help up the team in here. So it's going to be an interesting one how they negotiate that right now, even though Connor is not being able to close down on points to block her on the driver's standings.
Here are those live points again. Remind you, those do not include the drops factored in at the conclusion of this event. At this mark, Harrington would gain only 41 points if that turned out how things played out. But again, how it works with drops factored in is your worst finishes are removed from your point total. If you, say, have a run that isn't the greatest, like tonight, you might not have that factor as the drop. If you, say, have a bunch of 7th place runs, you can have that to be where you drop some of the 7th, for example. It's a bit difficult to explain overall, but to put this in perspective, Adam Blocker's in a spot with his pace where he has been top 5 finishes all season, and has been for a year. For Harrington, he's had issues. So there's that difference coming in, Lorenzo, where Blocker's got the flexibility of having multiple races with top 5s, while Harrington does not, as Galvin's strategy goes bust.
Yeah, and I think that strategy of trying to get another yellow and try to propel himself into better positions went down the drain, unfortunately. But it was a gamble. You have to do those gambles on the track. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to make even Joan Branch. You just see on the apron going to the pit lanes as well. So just looking at some things right here. Apparently, Connor, best result if they stayed like this, can be a 4th place and even a 5th place depending on circumstances. But it depends now on if right now at this current stage, Moletka can actually lap Krause and Newsom, but it doesn't look like it because the gap between both of them are really close, and with this little to go, I don't see Moletka being able to do that.
To explain this better, let's put it this way. Harrington's now in 6th. If the positions stay the way they are and he doesn't get to 5th, it'd be just the 3rd time this year he wouldn't have finished inside the top 5. There is a chance this race that he needed this to not be a drop becomes a drop. You cannot have that right now, as we see Newsom stays within 8/10 of her teammate Robert Wetchker III. Philip Krause hasn't really been able to eat up the gap. If anything, he's lost ground to the point where he's 2 seconds behind Malechka.
Yeah, but I think nothing they can do about it because Malechka is right now on a 17.949 pace. But the problem is he just got Joe Brinch out of the pit lane, and he has better tires. So nothing that Malechka can do about it at this current moment. Just hang back off Brinch and try to do his best to stay within his draft on the start-finish line, and then just work out the lines eventually. But his strategy, from what I asked him prior to this race, has been very, very good, very impressive. Has nearly got into the side pod of Ricky Harden.
Ricky Harden's not making too many friends tonight, as Harden lets by
And
several
look at
cars.
Newsom.
Here we go. Ricky Harden factors in the race lead as the teammates now get the scrap. Newsom tries to stick the bottom, nearly snaps it around to the bottom of 3 and 4. Malechka to the 3rd, able to hold serve.
Yeah, and one thing about this is they cannot waste a single minute trying to battle each other out way too much. Krause just cleared himself off Ricky Harden pretty quickly, and he's about a second behind both of them. So good luck, both of you. Negotiate your overtake spot and make the best win, but Krause is coming in hot.
Yeah, this is what Krause needs. They need a fight, and here comes a teammate. That's Jason Brophy, the next car, who is a lap down, and Brophy stays low. Will Brophy move to the bottom and out of the way completely? Yes. So Brophy, with damage from earlier, not playing a factor, stays to the bottom and allows Krause to drive around the outside as well behind these drivers. Closing stages make it 25 laps to go from Iowa. Malechka prefers the bottom, Newsom trying the top. This is the cat and mouse, and the difference is to try and get that cleaner near contact for Newsom towards the wall.
And again, the only back-to-back winners in the not back-to-back, but multiple winners in the Speedway Series, looking forward to get their first win in the IndyCar Series. But so far, this 1-2 result, it's been brewing for a few races. I think we have followed this, even when Arjuna was here with us on commentary. They've been looking for this for quite a while now, and so far they're getting the result they've been clamoring for, I think, for the past maybe 4 or 5 races, if I recall correctly. But so far, it's working at Iowa.
Ever since Malechka the 3rd and Newsom got their opportunities to be able to race in this series around the time of Silverstone, we've seen different types of performances from those factory-backed machines in the IndyCar Series. Newsom trying to find her footing, has had decent speed. Just not the luck in a lot of the cases, as seen as well in the Speedway Series. For Malechka the 3rd, the qualifying speed's been there, but it's been about getting the finishing position. Tonight, everything's gone right to plan for factory back tonight, but it's about the execution for about 19 more laps. Philip Krause is still within 1.2 seconds. Malechka and Newsom have been inside the top 2 just about the entire night.
Yeah, and again, this might be the case that once again, pole sitter not winning this race. She's in second, but she's not taking this one home as the pole sitter tonight.
A lot can change, though. Who knows?
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think it's done yet.
Oh, Malechka got
those,
really
and
wide
that's
out of
why.
4.
Here we go. Molechka the third opens the bottom after a mistake on 4. Newsom tries to take advantage. The factory-backed machines near side by side. Philip Kraus is now in the mix. He's half a second back. He tries to run the top. Both the factory-backed cars to the bottom. Newsom got loose off 4. 16 laps to go. More traffic approaches.
And this is the worst case scenario right now for Robert Maleczka right now, because it is 2 guys, Mike Grigney and, if I saw that correctly, Stephen Larkin. They're I could say they're battling for position, but it isn't. Grigney 3 laps back from Larkin, so nothing that you can do right there in terms of battles. So it's going to be tricky for how Maleczka negotiate this. They're both kind of slow.
Yeah, this is going to be nerve-wracking for these 2. Make it these 3. All 3 of these drivers looking for their first win in the Lionheart IndyCar Series to add their names to an illustrious list. Maleczka the third still trying to defend hard. Newsom trying the top. Kraus trying different lines behind. Newsom might have to change things up soon, though. The dirty air coming into play from the lap traffic soon.
Yeah, but I think that's a half a second that separates the first car of Rigney to Maleczka. So he's coming in close, staying on the bottom line, trying to avoid Rigney as best as he can. He's going to kind of merge into Rigney's line into turn number 4. And Rigney's just saying he's going to stay high to try to get himself away from Maleczka. So he clears himself from the first car.
Newsom not clear yet, though. Within 3/10 of Maleczka the third, Maleczka tries to clear on by the other car. Not the same treatment, though, quite yet from the 62 of Larkamp. Larkamp now lifts. Maleczka the third now at clean space. The battle for the race win comes down to these 3. It's Maleczka the third, Newsom, and Kraus with 10 to go from Iowa Speedway, this time by.
And Newsom struggling a little bit more than Maleczka did with Larkamp, but Kraus, I think, is being a little bit more conservative with the tires right here, so he hasn't been able to close the gap on Alexis Newsom over these past 2 laps. So looks like the traffic might have sealed the deal right here, but we still have about 10 laps to go.
Down to 9 to go. Newsom still holds on to second. Kraus lost a significant amount of time behind Larkamp. How about nearly a full second to the back end of Newsom? Maleczka the third, though, still is approaching more traffic, though. Traffic could play a factor in the final 3 laps at this mark. AJ Musselman and a couple others are just up the track. But for Maleczka the third, it has been a strong night overall, taking the lead after the pit stop cycle, and now leads with 7 to go.
And let's talk about the patience and efficiency out of Maleczka, clearing himself through traffic, making that traffic work into his favor, and doing by that, putting up what I would say a lifetime of a gap. But there's a driver, I think, up in the wall on the start-finish line. Just want to check who that is, and that's Chris Fowler getting a little bit loose into turn 1 and 2.
Chris Fowler stays up. Chris Fowler has suspension damage. Newsom dodges. Kraus dodges. Not a major factor as Maleczka the third now goes to the outside of Ricky Harden's car with 5 to go this time by. Next flag ends the race as Newsom is now more than a second back as she drives by Harden as well.
I think safety flag might have been applied over here for Newsom. I think she knows that she cannot catch Maleczka with about 5 to go right here. So she's just trying to stay as safe as she can towards the end of the race, because that makes factory back 1-2 in about ever since, like you said, they started in Silverstone.
It's been incredible. But with 3 to go, Maleczka the third just needs to get the job done. Clean track ahead. Newsom 0.8 back, Kraus 1.6 seconds back. The only 3 cars on the lead lap. Final 2 laps from Iowa, this time by. Maleczka the third has had the speed all throughout this campaign, and now gets ready to take the white flag this time by. Final lap for the Midwest Simulations Iowa 200. He's been on the pole already 3 times in his short career in the Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by Butt Kicker. But tonight, He has broken on through after coming so close at Twin Rainbow Tanky. He has redemption. Robert Malechka III wins his first career race at Midway Simulations Iowa 200 and Iowa Speedway. Factory backed with their first 1-2 finish in their time in the Lionheart IndyCar Series as well, with Alexis Newsom second and Philip Kraus on another podium in his young career in Lionheart competition. Robert Malechka III now adds his name to an illustrious list. He actually ran an extra lap, Lorenzo, to make sure he was good to go. An unbelievable finish for Robert Malechka III. He wins by 1.2 seconds as he gets the chance to celebrate. Locker has scored 8 wins this season, Harrington and Karam 2. Bennett 1, Chin 1, Galvin 1, and now a masterclass from Malechka III adds his name to the list of now 7 different winners. Factory back, take a bow. It's your first 1-2. And yes, Newsom just broke the front wing before they could take the picture. A picturesque night for racing, a picturesque moment for Factory Backed. They have their first ever 1-2 in your unofficial race results presented by CarNogs. Robert Malechka III becomes the 7th different winner in 2021 of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, while Newsom does not break that cold drought of pole sitters being able to win. She is 1 spot shy of that. Philip Kraus, another strong finish for private label Team Hype Black, is the last car in the lead lap, with Andrew Kinsella the first driver 1 lap down after winning in 2020. Connor Harrington recovered to take a top 5, so able to put himself in a decent finishing position to prevent a 3rd non-top 5 of the year, while Mike Rasmus comes home in 6th. Otis O'Brien, Chin, and Houston round out the top 10. Good recovery for Chin after losing several seconds after trouble during one of his later stints. Jason Galvin, his strategy did not pay off. He was 6th before taking a wave, needed caution within 10 laps, didn't get it. His reward, a non-top 10. Sometimes iRacing math can be intriguing on that mark. While Brandt comes home in 12th, with Brian Beard 13th, Matt Taylor 2 laps down 14th, Luis Gonzalez Nunez finishes 15th with Joe Branch, AJ Musselman, Jason Brophy, Clark Camp, and Rigney. Your top 20, Rigney is 8 laps down. Going 9 laps down was Chris Fowler after a late race incident. With Ricky Harden, oh boy, it was not a pretty night for him, 11 laps down for the Sim Racing Merch Esports machine. Henry Bennett, not the night he was looking forward to after winning last time out, 16 laps down after a big crash. Lionel Callisto, Adam Frazier also were involved in incident 24th, 25th. Tara Graf also out 26th. Aaron Morgan ended up hitting the outside wall with significant front nose damage, 74 laps down 27th. Grahua, Holmes, and Ken Hacker, the top 30. Last drivers, Barrett Rolfe, early incident parked his day. Tony Schowen ends up getting involved with the massive incident while trying to pit for a first caution of the night. Ron Hacker was involved with that contact with Barrett Rolfe and soon parked his machine. Your fastest lap, Robert Malechka III, a 17 flat early in this race. That brings us into our HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code LionHRT15 for 15% off orders. A big night for celebration coming up for Factory Back from HyperX Victory Lane. We now join Robert Malechka III, 7th different winner in 2021 of the Lionheart IndyCar Series. He has been dominant in the Speedway Series. He now carries that dominance over to IndyCar competition. Robert, you have won in your first season IndyCar competition in just a few starts. How does it feel to win at Iowa?
Yeah, it feels great. this is one of the ovals that I least expected to win at. Iowa and Motegi actually are probably my two weakest ovals on here. So, I thought I had a good chance at Texas or Michigan. Did not expect Iowa. I was going to be happy with a top 5. But yeah, I'll take the win. A good 1-2 for Factory Beck as well.
I was going to say, what has the team reaction been to this, knowing both you and Newsom joined around Silverstone, have been improving week after week, you especially with the qualifying pace early and nearly coming away with the victory at Twin Ring Motegi, and now to come away with your first 1-2 finish in the series. What's kind of the reaction like in the thought process, knowing how big this is for your organization?
Yeah, I mean, we knew coming in, just from raw pace, raw speed, that we'd be up in the front on ovals, excuse me. We know guys like Phil, Connor, Andrew are going to be up there every race. But we're still lacking a bit of speed in road course races. So hopefully that will come with time. But yeah, I think you can expect us up front every single oval race, if not winning most of them.
Now the question is, what's the focus now like to be able to try and keep this up? Because it's a road course next time up, but there's also a lot of big ovals left. What's kind of the expectations now the rest of the campaign, knowing that you join halfway through the campaign and have the chance to potentially build for 2022?
Just the same mentality that I have in the Speedway Series. Just keep on winning, keep on getting good results. Because as once you click off 1, 2, 3 wins, your confidence is through the roof, and you really think you can beat anyone on here, even though some of these guys are the best there is out there. But yeah, just keep the focus on ovals. Still, practice road courses, but at least for the remainder of the season, put majority of the focus towards ovals.
The impact of tonight is going to be paramount. Already, Robert Muchka III is tied for 9th all-time in series polls. He becomes amongst more than 40 different winners in its history. Congratulations.
Yep, thanks, Justin.
Robert Muchka III makes it a 1-2 for Factory Beck to his first career victory. Alexis Newsom came away with the pole tonight and in turn came away with the second place run. Alexis just one spot short from victory tonight. Ended up losing the lead in part with the pit lane. How would you describe your night, knowing it's been a big evening for your organization?
Well, it's both happy and frustrating. I think it's the fastest and cleaner, but Rob got through traffic a little better. And when he undercut on that first stop, and then the caution came out, and I barely had a chance up to that. But I feel like it went well. I almost got him at the end. At least if I get beat by anybody, it's him.
And how would you describe your improvement in this series? Because you've showed some improvement in pace, and while there's been a lot of bad luck for you lately, it has still shown the amount of improvement the past few weeks in particular.
Yeah, I think so. I've had a bad stretch. I'm taking myself out of races and just making bad decisions, and a couple of things getting caught up in that I couldn't do anything about, but I think tonight is a big confidence builder. And yeah, that's another thing. I'm glad I got through the whole night without wrecking anybody or wrecking myself or getting through the wall.
In-turn mistakes on pit road. Congratulations on the podium.
Thanks. Thank you.
That's Alexis Newsom coming home in second tonight. Philip Kraus tried to build himself a house inside the top 5, did so much of the evening. In turn, it leads to a third place run. As well, Phil, first things first, how would you describe tonight for you? Because you started 7th, led the banner for private label team hype tonight, and in turn, you end up being just one of 3 on the lead lap.
I mean, yeah, it was a fun race. Just I struggled a bit too much in Dirty Air personally to really ever challenge the top two, even with that yellow late. I think before the yellow I was like 4 seconds behind Alexis and 10 seconds behind Robertson. They were both insanely good through traffic. I was just struggling a bit too much trying to roll bottom, so happy to take third. I think it was the best possible result today, and hey, it's not second, so you know, that's always nice. Not too many of those.
I mean, second's still better than third in terms of
Yeah,
positioning.
but it feels a lot worse when you finish second. So wins that much closer.
I guess I get what you mean by that, Mark, but in all seriousness, when it comes to that and how things have played out, what do you feel you could have done differently to put yourself within that mix for the final few laps for the win?
I don't really know, really. I was just fighting the car a bit too tight to really ever, no matter what lane I ran, when I got within a second of Alexis, I just went way too hard. I tried working the tools a little bit on the last run. I hadn't really worked them that much through the race, since it didn't seem to make too much of a difference. But I'm like, well, let's throw a Hail Mary, see what happens, since, you know, last run, not really fighting anyone for points. So, Jacker, and it didn't really help at all. So, just like, well, I'm just gonna have to settle for third, because that was after they had their side-by-side battle for a few laps, and that was my only other real chance if they got caught up on each other.
It was recommended don't go beyond 2 or 3 either direction by Andrew Kinsella, discussing that prior to tonight's action. Either way, congratulations on another podium.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you to Private Label Team Hype and our sponsors, Ethica and Tomahawk sunglasses. They're check them out. They're pretty cool.
Philip Kraus coming away with the podium. I'd like to thank him, Alexis Newsom, and Robert Mleczko III for taking the time to speak with us for post-race coverage. And here is how astounding and how huge this is for Factory Back tonight. It was not Private Label Team Hype who got a 1-2 finish. It was not Adrenaline Motorsports in their groups getting a 1-2 finish. It was Factory Back getting the first 1-2 for a team all season. That is incredible, Renzo, as we take a look at the points projections. Drops are not factored in, remember, but those points are going to see a touch bit of swings of direction.
Yeah, it's gonna be we're gonna see a few touches over here, but what is important is that this might actually make things more interesting when we go towards the next race, because Bennett had a crash. Kinsella did not get the best results. Chin fell back into the grooves right here. Otis got a really decent result. So this third, even I can even put the 7th right now with Brophy's kind of mishap, but still bounce back, can actually make this really interesting with 6 rounds to go.
The drop weeks are going to be also critical. And oh, by the way, many of the finishes for Harrington have been in 5th place this season. So there is a chance that 5th place tonight might go into the drop category. But we like to take the time to thank the sponsors for tonight's coverage here on RaceSpotTV and ESTV. For sim racers, the Butt Kicker Gamer 2 or Simulation Kit adds the missing driver-to-car connection, bringing more realism to your sessions. By accurately responding to the in-game audio, you can feel the track like never before, providing increased vehicle handling and faster lap times. Are you ready for the most immersive experience in sim racing? For more information, visit thebuttkicker.com, and don't forget to use the promo code LION2021 for 20% off orders. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart, HRT15, Lion HRT15 in particular, for 15% off orders. The Sim Experience AccuForce Pro V2 is the premier professional simulation racing steering system. The key to its incredible realism is the groundbreaking direct drive motor control system, providing a driving experience that's second only to the real thing. For more information on the entire Sim Experience ecosystem, visit simexperience.com. Minus 273 is the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of breathable toy spandex. Whether you're a kart or sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more info on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel. Visit minus273.biz. Don't forget to also use the promo code minus 273 LHRS15 for 15% off orders. Looking for entertaining sim racing content? Look no further than the DMLC Racing channel. Follow former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year Mark Cohn's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with cat-like reflexes, all while providing commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. Follow along by subscribing to the DMLC Racing channel on YouTube and like his Facebook page at the DMLC Racing channel. And it's not just those 5 names, but so many more, as well as all the partners at the Lionheart Racing Series we'd like to thank. Learn more about them by visiting LionheartRacingSeries.com. You can also find out more information on the 3 competitions that Lionheart's sanctioning body runs. It's going to be intriguing how things play out for the next month or so. It's been an intriguing Midwest Simulations Iowa 200. The next time Lionheart Racing action hits the track September 30th for the Retro Series, be sure to tune in at 10:35 p.m. Eastern Time for that, while the IndyCar Series heads to Canada next for the Patrick Taylor Memorial Grand Prix at Mosport presented by Clipping at Apex on October the 6th. Those races are going to be throwers. It's going to be intriguing how the championship battles fare out. But with that, it's time to say goodbye. For Ismael Bellor, Junior Kankipani, and Lorenzo Bono, I'm Justin Prince. Thank you for watching.